I have conquered humanity's cradle world. I have conquered the galaxy in order to shape mankind's development as it at last evolves into a psychic race. No isolated pockets of our species may remain free, lest in their ignorance they invite destruction upon us all. I have shattered the hold of faith and fear over the human mind. Superstition and religion must continue to be outlawed, for they are easy doors for the warp's denizens to enter the human heart. This is what we have already done, and soon I will offer humanity a way of interstellar travel without reliance upon Geller fields and navigators. I will offer them means of communicating between worlds without reliance on the warp dreams of astropaths. And when the Imperium shields the entire species within the laws of my Pax Imperialis, when humanity is freed from the warp and united beneath my vision, I can at last shepherd mankind's growth into a psychic race. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues and knowledge seekers, I welcome to this lecture. It is my greatest honor to stand before you as an archivist of the library Sanctus of Terra. We gather today in these hallowed halls to delve into the life and legacy of the most pivotal figure in our history, the Emperor of Mankind. The Emperor is a figure shrouded in mystery, awe, and reverence. His story is the story of humanity's rise, struggle, and survival across millennia of turmoil and triumph. In today's lecture, we will explore his life and legacy through three critical phases: the man, the king, and the corpse. Each phase represents a distinct aspect of the Emperor's existence and influence, shedding light on his multifaceted role in shaping the destiny of our species. To understand the Emperor, one must first grasp the enormity of his impact on human civilization. The Emperor is not merely a historical figure. He is the bedrock upon which the vast Imperium of man is built. His life and actions have defined the trajectory of humanity for over 10,000 years, from the unification of Terra to the relentless expansion of the Great Crusade, and ultimately to his perpetual vigil on the Golden Throne. The Emperor of Mankind is a figure of paradoxes, a man of science who became a god, a unifier whose empire fractured, and a visionary whose dream became a dystopian reality. His life and actions have left an indelible mark on human history, embodying both the heights of human potential and the depths of our fallibility. As we journey through the chapters of his existence, we will uncover and learn of the complexities of the man-turned-god. So please sit and listen closely. Come with an open mind and a reverent heart, for the tale of the Emperor of Mankind is not just a story of one man, but the saga of humanity itself. His early life was shrouded in legend and myth. According to fragmented records and ancient lore, one theory posited that the emperor was born some 48,000 years ago, during the oldest ages of humanity. The exact circumstances of the emperor's birth remain unknown. Still, one theory believes that he was the result of a deliberate act of creation by ancient shamans of Terra. These shamans, powerful psychers with the ability to manipulate the warp, foresaw an impending age of darkness that would engulf humanity. In unprecedented unity, they sacrificed their mortal forms, pooling their collective consciousness and psychic energy to create a being of unparalleled power and wisdom. This being, known as the Emperor, was imbued with their knowledge, abilities, and a singular purpose: to guide humanity through its darkest hours and lead it to a new era of enlightenment and unity. The other, much more accepted theory is that the Emperor, in all his divine greatness, was only a man blessed with great abilities, immortality, a sharp mind, and a strong grasp of the void, which was honed through millennia to make him the man we know now. Sources also suggest that the emperor was born to mortal parents on Terra in the 8th millennium BC in a primitive Proto-Hittite village along the banks of the Sakarya River, from records we believe in Eastern Europa. While a young adolescent, the emperor's father was murdered by his uncle. When preparing his father's body for a primitive funeral ritual, he received a vision of his murder. Later, the boy who would become the emperor calmly approached his uncle and stopped his heart with his psychic abilities, displaying neither sorrow nor malice, simply justice. According to the emperor himself, this was the moment he realized that humanity needed law, order, and the guidance of a ruler. Shortly after, he left his village. From an early age, the emperor exhibited extraordinary abilities. He was a prodigy, demonstrating advanced knowledge in various science, technology, and warfare fields. His psychic abilities were unmatched, allowing him to perceive the world in ways others could not. The emperor's early years were spent traveling incognito, influencing human development from the shadows. He nurtured civilizations, preserved knowledge, and guided humanity towards progress and unity. We believe the emperor appeared in various guises throughout the ages, always working to steer humanity towards a brighter future. Some imperial scholars believe that the emperor was just a man, but in ancient times he stole his power from the gods of chaos, like in the Promethean legend. In this respect, the fire was the power of chaos itself, twisted to his will. But of course, this is merely subjecture and whispers. But a part of me believes this legend among all the others. Prometheus stole fire from the gods and, as punishment for this transgression, was punished and tied to a rock to live out a waking death for the rest of his existence. For 38,000 years, the entity known only as the New Man traversed the breadth of Earth and wove himself into human history. In the early stages of his journey, he was but a silent observer, meticulously cataloguing the saga of mankind. Yet as the epochs passed, his role transformed from passive spectator to active participant. With the wisdom accrued over countless lifetimes, he began to bestow upon humanity the gifts of efficient governance, advanced agricultural techniques, improved animal husbandry, technological innovations, and the principles of peace. Acknowledging the myriad forms and identities assumed by this enigmatic figure is crucial. As he would later be known, the emperor did not limit himself to a single visage or station. Instead, he navigated through the ages under various guises, sometimes rising as a revered leader or sagacious advisor. In eras fraught with turmoil, he emerged as a crusader, a religious figurehead, or even a messiah, guiding humanity through its darkest hours. Yet often, he chose to exert his influence from the shadows, serving as a counselor to monarchs, a court magician, or a pioneering scientist. His incarnations were manifold. Some were modest, blending into history, while others ascended to become pivotal figures in the lore of world religions and monumental historical narratives. Throughout these iterations, his objective remained steadfast: to shepherd humanity along a precarious path of survival, a path that only he, with his foresight and understanding, could discern. One of the emperor's most notable characteristics during his early years was his sense of purpose and determination. A vision of a unified, enlightened human civilization free from the chains of superstition, ignorance, and internecine conflict drove him. This vision shaped his actions and decisions, guiding him as he prepared for the monumental task of unifying Terra. The emperor's influence was not limited to politics and warfare. He also significantly contributed to art, culture, and science. He is credited with mentoring some of history's greatest minds, from philosophers and artists to scientists and engineers. By sharing his vast knowledge and wisdom, the emperor ensured that the seeds of progress were sown across the ages, ready to bloom when humanity was prepared to embrace them. The emperor's philosophy was rooted in rationality, secularism, and a deep belief in humanity's potential for greatness. He envisioned a future where humankind would transcend its petty divisions and embrace a common identity united by shared values and aspirations. Central to his vision was the imperial truth, a doctrine rejecting religious dogma and superstition, favoring science, reason, and empirical knowledge. The imperial truth was more than just a philosophical stance. It was a guiding principle for the emperor's actions and decisions. He believed that humanity's potential was limitless but could only be realized through unity and collective effort. The emperor saw Terra's myriad factions and warlords as obstacles to progress, their constant warfare and rivalries preventing humanity from achieving its true potential. To overcome these obstacles, the emperor sought to create a new world order based on meritocracy, technological advancement, and centralized authority. His vision extended beyond Terra, encompassing the entire galaxy. He foresaw an Imperium of man, a galaxy-spanning empire where humanity would reclaim its lost colonies, explore new worlds, and establish a dominant presence among the stars. This vision was a dream, a meticulously planned strategy that would be realized through the Great Crusade. Central to the emperor's philosophy was the belief in the inherent worth and potential of every human being. He advocated for a society where individuals were judged based on their abilities and contributions rather than their birth or social status. This egalitarian approach was reflected in the structure of the Imperium, where positions of power and influence were open to all who demonstrated merit and competence. By the 30th millennium, Terra had become a war-torn planet, ravaged by techno-barbarians, mutant warlords, and the remnants of failed civilizations. It was during this time of chaos and fragmentation that the Emperor chose to reveal himself to humanity. Declaring his intention to unite Terra and reclaim humanity's lost glory, he began his campaign of unification. The Emperor's rise to power was marked by a series of decisive and brutal wars against the various warlords and tyrants that controlled Terra. He led his forces with unmatched strategic brilliance and personal prowess in battle, gradually bringing the entire planet under his control. His technological and scientific superiority, combined with his psychic abilities, allowed him to crush opposition and win the loyalty of many. The Emperor also utilized genetically engineered warriors, known as the Thunder Warriors, who were instrumental in achieving his early victories. This process took approximately 700 years. We think that in this time, along with consolidating his hold on Terra, the Emperor perfected his bioengineering processes and with time managed to create his custodes and the progenitors of what would be his sons, the Primarchs. With Terra unified, the Emperor set his sights on the stars. He envisioned a galactic empire where humanity could thrive, free from the influences of malevolent Xenos and the corrupting forces of chaos. To realize this vision, he initiated the Great Crusade, a massive military campaign to reunite the scattered human colonies across the galaxy under the banner of the Imperium of Man. He understood that brute force alone would not suffice. He needed to win the people's hearts and minds. To this end, he employed diplomacy, forging alliances with those who shared his vision and offering amnesty to those willing to lay down their arms and join his cause. For those who refused, he wielded his might ruthlessly. The Emperor's diplomatic efforts were instrumental in securing the allegiance of key factions and leaders. He negotiated with the techno-barbarian warlords, offering them positions of power and influence within his new order in exchange for their loyalty. These alliances allowed him to consolidate his power and expand his influence without resorting to constant warfare. This initial diplomacy also helped the Emperor form the basis of his early custodian guard, where the heirs of rivals and friends alike were trained and molded by the Emperor to keep his foes in line and form a line of loyal servants and guardians. With Earth finally united under his rule, the Emperor set his sights on the stars. He envisioned a vast empire stretching across the galaxy, where humanity could flourish without the petty squabbles and destructive tendencies that had plagued its past. To achieve this, he needed an army capable of conquering and protecting distant worlds. So he began the creation of the Space Marine Legions, warriors even more formidable than the Thunder Warriors. The Great Crusade was launched, a grand campaign to reunite the scattered remnants of humanity and bring the Emperor's light to the galaxy's darkest corners. The first step in uniting humanity was the unification of Mars and Terra. The Emperor needed Mars's planet-wide forges and industry, and he could only do so by seeking an alliance. Towers of blackened steel and rust-red machinery dominated the horizon, and the air was perpetually filled with the acrid stench of chemical exhausts and the hum of production lines. Once a pale and promising hue, the sky was now a sickly yellow, streaked with the perpetual scars of industrial pollution. Poisoned by centuries of unrestrained manufacturing, Martian soil could no longer sustain the life that had once been painstakingly introduced. The tech priests of the Mechanicum, entrenched in their dogma of the machine god, saw the ravaged planet not as a dying world, but as a testament to their divine purpose. For them, the transformation of Mars into a colossal forge was the ultimate expression of their faith, each belch of smoke and hiss of steam a prayer to their deity. The Emperor, pragmatic and far-seeing, understood their fervor but recognized the necessity of balance and sustainability. The first drops fell tentatively, almost as if the planet was testing this strange phenomenon's reality. A soft patter on the steel rooftops, a gentle kiss on the rusted machinery. The rain was not natural but a byproduct of the Emperor's foresight and intervention. From this day on, the Mechanicum was his, whether you wish to say the priests of Mars were trapped by their dogma or were likely more awe-inspired by the Emperor. It is said that when he landed, when asked who he was, he said, "I am the Emperor." And it was so. It is hard to say whether he was always the Emperor or a king, but I believe that at this moment, with the unification of humanity's cradle, Earth and Mars, he truly was the Emperor of mankind. And from this moment, the Emperor and his host set out. Mars was united under the Imperium's banner. The Emperor stood poised to begin his grand campaign, the Great Crusade. This huge task aimed to reclaim humanity scattered across the stars and reunite the Emperor with his lost sons, the Primarchs. Finding them was crucial to the success of his vision. The Great Crusade began with a flurry of activity. The new alliance with Mars gave rise to unprecedented Imperium tech and industry. The forges of Mars worked day and night. They made weapons, starships, and armor at a planet-wide scale. The Space Marine Legions were armed and ready to spread the Emperor's light across the galaxy. He divided his forces and sent fleets and legions in all directions to explore, conquer, and unify. The vast galaxy was full of opportunity and peril. It presented challenges that required the unique strengths of the Primarchs he sought to find. His journey was as much a search for his sons as a unification campaign. Each discovery of a Primarch was momentous, bringing new strength and unique capabilities to the Great Crusade. The Primarchs were each molded by their environment and experiences. They have their philosophies and approaches to leadership and war. Perturabo, found in the industrial world of Olympia, was a master of siegecraft and engineering. Rogel Dawn was found in the icy world of Inwit. He embodied stoic resilience and was trusted to fortify Terra. The Crusade was not without its challenges. Space is vast, and alien civilizations are resilient. The ever-present threat of chaos tested the Imperium's resources and resolve. The Primarchs, though loyal, sometimes clashed with each other and the Emperor over the interpretation of his grand vision. Their differing temperaments and backgrounds led to moments of profound unity and deep discord. Yet, the Emperor's leadership and bond with his sons proved resilient. Through the strength of the Primarchs and the dedication of the Space Marine legions, the Imperium continued to expand. Planets long lost to darkness and anarchy were brought back into the light of civilization. Once fragmented and vulnerable, the human race became a formidable force in the galaxy. At the peak of the Great Crusade, after the crushing of the Orc Empire at Ulanor, the Emperor's focus shifted. He turned to his ultimate goal, securing humanity's future against the forces of the Warp. He returned to Terra to work on the secretive and crucial Webway project. It would protect and guide humanity through the psychic tumult of the Warp. This decision, though necessary, left the Primarchs and the Imperium to carry on the crusade without his direct oversight. The Emperor realized conquering the galaxy was not enough. He also needed to address the dangers of the Warp. He sought a way to travel without the Warp. The solution was the Webway, an Eldar-built network that allowed safe, quick travel without the Warp's dangers. The Emperor started the project secretly to connect Terra to the Webway. It was a massive task requiring his technology and psychic power. As we all know now, the Emperor's dream of a united, safe humanity was shattered. His choice to prioritize the Webway project and trust Horus led to victory and tragedy. The Imperium survived but was forever changed. The galaxy was ablaze, engulfed in the throes of the heresy. The Emperor, once the unchallenged ruler of a united Imperium, now faced his greatest challenge. His most beloved son, Horus, had turned against him, leading half of the legions into rebellion. It was a betrayal of unimaginable proportions that threatened to undo centuries of painstaking work and plunge humanity into eternal darkness. A desperate necessity guided the Emperor's actions during these years. He could no longer rely on his physical presence alone to quell the rebellion. He had to strategize, delegate, and ultimately trust those who remained loyal. The initial stages of the heresy were marked by brutal ambushes and the realization that many of his sons had been seduced by chaos, or at the very least, swayed by their treacherous brothers. As the heresy raged on, it became clear that the fate of the Imperium would be decided on Terra. Driven by a burning desire to overthrow his father, Horus gathered his forces for a final assault on the throne world. The siege of Terra was a battle of apocalyptic proportions. Horus's fleet, a dark armada of traitors and demons, descended upon the planet, and the once serene skies of Terra were filled with fire and death. Within the confines of the imperial palace, the Emperor remained a figure of resolve. His psychic presence bolstered the defenders and struck fear into the hearts of the traitors. The battles within the palace walls were brutal and desperate, with every inch of ground fiercely contested. As the siege reached its zenith, the Emperor made a fateful decision. Realizing that prolonged defense would only lead to further devastation, he confronted Horus directly. Gathering a small contingent of his finest warriors, including the loyal Primarchs, Rogel Dawn and Sanguinius, he teleported onto Horus's flagship, the Vengeful Spirit. Sanguinius was the first to encounter Horus. The angelic Primarch fought valiantly, but his formidable strength did not match the corrupted War Master. Horus killed Sanguinius, but not before the noble Primarch inflicted wounds that would later prove crucial. The Emperor finally confronted Horus in the heart of the flagship. The duel between the Emperor and Horus, both physical and metaphysical, was a clash of titans, a battle that would decide the fate of humanity. Horus, empowered by the dark gods of chaos, was a formidable adversary. Despite his immense power, the Emperor hesitated, hoping that he could still redeem his fallen son. This moment of hesitation allowed Horus to inflict grievous wounds upon the Emperor, pushing him to the brink of death. In that critical moment, the Emperor realized that Horus was beyond redemption. With a surge of psychic energy, he unleashed his full power and stabbed his son through the chest with the Athame blade, obliterating Horus and purging his soul from existence. The force of the Emperor's final blow was so great that it shattered the War Master utterly, severing his connection to the Chaos Gods and ending the rebellion instantly. Though victorious, the Emperor was mortally wounded. His loyalists, led by Dawn, found his broken body and returned it to Terra. The Emperor had foreseen the possibility of such an outcome and had made preparations. Initially designed as part of the Webway project, the Golden Throne was repurposed as a life support system to sustain the Emperor's shattered form. This massive and complex machine device required immense psychic energy to function. The Emperor's internment on the Golden Throne marked a transformation. While his body was broken and incapable of action, his mind and spirit endured, projecting a psychic beacon. As we all know, this beacon is essential for faster-than-light travel and serves as a shield against the predators of the warp. The Golden Throne sustained the Emperor's life and maintained his psychic presence, guiding and protecting humanity. The Imperium was left scarred and battered, but it endured. The loyalist Primarchs and the High Lords of Terra assumed the responsibility of governing in the Emperor's name, striving to preserve the fragile unity of the Imperium. The Emperor's sacrifice had ensured humanity's survival, but at a significant cost. Despite these challenges, the Emperor's enduring presence on the Golden Throne inspired and guided his people. Of course, this inspiration, this light the Emperor shines, comes with a darker side. The tales of the Dark King lie deep in the archives, nestled among tales of conquest and sacrifice. This theory, steeped in prophetic warnings, speaks of a ruler who, initially a beacon of hope and unification, could turn into a tyrant whose reign would cast a long, oppressive shadow over humanity. The figure at the heart of this theory is the Emperor of mankind himself, revered as the sovereign protector of humanity, yet feared as the potential harbinger of its doom. The theory posits a potential timeline or a set of circumstances in which the Emperor, driven by the best intentions to safeguard humanity, might lead it into an era of darkness and tyranny instead. Like the birthing of Slanesh before, the Emperor would consume humanity in a warp fire, signaling the end of our people. The basis of the Dark King prophecy hinges on the Emperor's dual nature as both a man and a godlike being. His vast psychic powers, which he has used to protect and lead humanity, contain the seeds of potential ruin. During the heresy, this theory seemed perilously close to realization. The Emperor's confrontation with Horus was not just a battle for survival, but also a representation of what he might become if he gave in to the seductions of absolute power. The Emperor, seeing how the ruinous powers had given Horus their power, saturated himself in the warp. In doing this, he was on the brink of creating a new ruinous god, the Dark King, but in this wisdom he decided to remain a man, a king among men perhaps, but still just a man. The aftermath of the heresy and the Emperor's internment within the Golden Throne adds complexity to the Dark King theory. With the Emperor's physical form all but destroyed and his psychic essence chained eternally to the Golden Throne, he rules in a state that is neither life nor death. He is both the Imperium's protector and potentially its ultimate jailer. Despite his past reluctance to accept such veneration, the continued worship of the Emperor as a god plays into the theory. It underscores the fear that a single figure's centralization of hope, faith, and power might lead to a future where the Emperor's godly persona overtakes his human origins, fulfilling the Dark King's prophecy. Throughout the heresy, the Emperor maintained his stance against being worshipped as a deity. His numerous decrees and edicts often sought to curb the burgeoning cults that revered him as a god, emphasizing his role as a leader and protector, not an object of worship. He understood that accepting divine status would let humanity give in to the supernatural and bolster the gods of chaos. Of course, In his near death and confinement to the Golden Throne, he has become a god rejected in life and worshipped in death by the ecclesiarchy and the masses of the Imperium. A man, a king who refused godhood, only to be deified by his followers in death. For over 10,000 years since his interment, the emperor's worship has become critical to the functioning and the shaping of its culture, governance, and existence. The dichotomy of the emperor's physical death and spiritual omnipresence is all the Imperium has ever known in its long history. The loyal primarchs, the high lords of terror, and the countless bureaucrats and soldiers who survived the conflict were tasked with rebuilding a fractured Imperium. As a lifeless body and spirit, the emperor's presence became the guiding light for all. The emperor's physical form, sustained by the Golden Throne, is a ravaged husk. Thousands of psykers are sacrificed to the emperor and the throne daily so that he may protect terror and humanity. His once majestic and powerful body is now a shell, kept alive by the intricate machinery of the throne. Yet, despite his corporeal demise, the emperor's influence permeates every aspect of the Imperium. His spirit, an indomitable force of will, extends across the galaxy, providing hope and purpose to countless billions. To the people of the Imperium, the emperor is a god, a divine protector whose presence is felt in every prayer, every battle cry, and every act of faith. The ecclesiarchy has enshrined this belief, spreading the doctrine of the emperor's divinity and ensuring that his worship is a central tenet of imperial life. For many, the emperor as a god is the only reality they have ever known. Generations have lived and died under his watchful gaze, never questioning the duality of his existence. The stories of his heroic deeds during the Unification Wars and the Great Crusade have become mythic tales taught to every citizen from birth. Though altered and constrained, his powers remain immense, influencing the galaxy's fate. His most critical power is his role as the Astronomicon, the psychic beacon that guides the Imperium's starships through the warp. This lighthouse, fueled by the daily sacrifice of thousands of psykers, allows for faster-than-light travel and maintains the cohesion of the Imperium's vast territories. Without the Astronomicon, the Imperium would be cut off from itself, its worlds isolated and vulnerable to the predations of chaos and Xenos. His psychic presence is a bulwark against the horrors of the warp. The Emperor's will holds back demonic entities constantly seeking to breach the material realm. This protective aura extends across the galaxy, creating zones of relative safety for humanity. While he cannot eliminate the warp's influence, his power mitigates its worst effects, providing a shield that preserves the stability of reality. This stability can be in a prayer said in thanks or a fervent enough belief that this latent psychic charm allows humanity to seek the Emperor's protection. The Emperor has often reached out through proxies and communicated through visions and dreams. He can reach out to those attuned to his presence, offering guidance and inspiration. Many of the Imperium's leaders, saints and warriors, have claimed to receive messages from the Emperor, often cryptic, influencing their actions with his divine will. Despite his physical confinement, the Emperor's powers continue to shape the destiny of the Imperium. His psychic presence, willpower, and enduring influence over the institutions he created ensure his vision for humanity persists. This transformation from a living ruler to a deity enshrined upon the throne represents one of the most metaphysical shifts in the Imperium's history. No longer the founder and protector in life, he ascended to become the God Emperor, worshipped fervently by the ecclesiarchy and adherents of the imperial creed. What once were tactical directives and philosophical teachings have transmuted into sacred texts and commandments, his words serving as spiritual and legal guidelines for billions. Paradoxically, though, he no longer speaks or acts as he once did. He has become the axis around which the entire Imperium rotates, his image a ubiquitous symbol of unity and resistance against the encroaching darkness. Silent though he may be, the miracles attributed to the Emperor cement his status as a divine being. The spectral legion of the damned, appearing seemingly from nowhere during the Imperium's direst hours, are perceived as the Emperor's wrath made manifest, punishing the foes of humanity with righteous fury. Similarly, the living saints, individuals imbued with miraculous power and often believed to be resurrected by the Emperor's will, lead his armies into battle, performing feats that defy explanation and rallying the faithful to ever greater fervor. In the 10,000 years since he took his place upon the throne, the Emperor's psychic might has become the linchpin holding together the sprawling Imperium. More than just a beacon for navigation, the Emperor has become a symbol of unity and faith. The imperial cult, which worships him as a god, has spread to every corner of the galaxy, its doctrines enforced by the ecclesiarchy, bringing a semblance of unity to a fractured human race. This faith in the God Emperor acts as a bulwark against the despair and corruption that constantly threaten to consume his realms. Every prayer uttered in his name, every martyr that dies for his glory, strengthens the ideological cement that holds the Imperium together against overwhelming odds. Miraculous interventions attributed to the Emperor's will, whether through the manifestation of the Legion of the Damned at the brink of defeat or the appearance of living saints radiating his divine wrath, have turned the tide of countless battles. These supernatural occurrences, often seen as direct actions of the Emperor's undiminished spirit, rally his troops and instill fear in his adversaries, reinforcing his omnipresence and omnipotence. While his direct rule during the Great Crusade shaped the physical structure of the Imperium, his enduring vigil from the Golden Throne has forged its spiritual and psychic fortitude. This silent guardianship, though less dramatic than his conquests, is continuous and unyielding. His sacrifice is eternal, his watchfulness never-ending. And under his distant gaze, the Imperium endures. Not just as a territory, but as an ideal, held together by faith in the undying Emperor. In this eternal vigil, Emperor, forgive me, but he has done more to sustain humanity than he ever did while leading it in conquest. His constant, though unseen, protection maintains the cohesion of an empire that spans the stars, proving that even in silence, he continues to command, protect, and inspire. Despite this silence, whispers of the Emperor's stirrings have begun to permeate the hallowed halls of terror and echo through the darkest reaches of space, hinting at a change within the sanctified walls of the imperial palace. Long held in stasis on the Golden Throne, he had become more than a ruler. He symbolized ultimate sacrifice. Yet rumors, portents, and miracles suggested something extraordinary. The Emperor might be awakening. The first inkling came from the besieged world of benediction, where defenders witnessed what was later termed the miracle of the Saints' Wall. A golden procession of ethereal spirits, suffused with a blinding light, appeared from the fabric of reality itself, holding back a surging tide of chaos that threatened to overrun the planet. This event was unlike any recorded in the annals of the ecclesiarchy. The golden hue, so distinctly tied to the Emperor's heraldry, suggested a direct intervention by the master of mankind. As these tales spread, more reports surfaced. Golden eagles, long a symbol associated with the Emperor's might and majesty, were seen soaring over battlefields where imperial forces faced inevitable defeat, turning the tide in favor of the beleaguered troops. These phenomena, marked by the Emperor's colors and occurring in moments of dire need, pointed to an active force at work, a force that had been silent for millennia. Meanwhile, during the epoch known as the Psychic Awakening, fragments of intercepted communications added layers to the growing legend of the Emperor's re-emergence. One such message captured during the strife of Baal was particularly revealing. An old priest, ancient and compelling, declared, the king on his throne. I've seen him stir, I've heard him speak, Cold and gold and old and bold, sing for your suppers, you priests who scold. The most compelling evidence of the emperor's burgeoning activity emerged from the plague wars on the world of Parmenio. Amidst the chaos of battle, a young girl began to exhibit powers that transcended the known capabilities of the saints of the Imperium. Her actions, her aura, and the miraculous deeds she performed did not merely echo the divine. They seemed to channel the emperor's essence directly. When faced by the enemies of man, she was called anathema, the ancient title of the emperor, and her visage shone with a light so pure that even the hardened custodian guard Colquan was moved to murmur, "My lord?" in awed recognition. These events, marked by the gilded touch of the emperor's power, seemed to suggest a more profound change. Was the emperor, confined for millennia to the twilight between life and death, reasserting his presence in the galaxy? The question found a semblance of answer in the words of Guilliman. Having spoken directly with the emperor, confirmed the unimaginable. After 10,000 years of silence, the emperor had spoken anew. Guilliman's testimony confirmed not just the emperor's awakening, but also a glimpse into the evolving nature of his existence. If the emperor had spoken when none had heard his voice for ages, what might this signify for the future of the Imperium? Thus, the belief that the emperor was reawakening began to take hold across the galaxy, from the echoing chambers of the High Lords of Terror to the farthest reaches of the Imperium. To some, it was a beacon of hope, a sign that the darkest days might soon pass. To others, it was a call to fervent prayer, a plea for guidance from the emperor. Over the years, many theologians, inquisitors, and Xenos alike have speculated whom the emperor may be, and in his absence, these theories have swirled. Some perhaps hold more truth than others, but none are valid. The Starchild theory posits a future where the emperor of mankind might transcend his current corporeal bindings to emerge anew from the warp. This theory draws from ancient beliefs and narratives of those who dwell on the fringes of imperial doctrine. At the core of the Starchild theory lies that, upon his near death, much of the emperor's soul escaped into the warp, mirroring the ancient earthly shamans whose collective reincarnation gave rise to the emperor's initial birth. These shamans, masters of the psychic realm, had foreseen the calamities of the warp's burgeoning power and engineered their rebirth into a single, immortal entity to guide and protect humanity. The Starchild theory posits that the Emperor, in his infinite foresight and psychic potency, might have planted the seeds for his own reincarnation, continuing this cycle. Supporters of this theory believe that within the warp, this entity, formed from the Emperor's dispersed psychic energy, is purported to gather strength, slowly nurturing itself in the hopes and faith of billions. However, a critical condition of this entity's full emergence is that the Emperor's current form must cease to tether him to the material realm. Thus, as long as he remains bound to the Golden Throne, the Starchild cannot manifest fully in the material universe. Among the believers of the Starchild theory is that the Emperor fathered numerous children throughout his millennia on Terra before rising to godhood. These offspring and their descendants, known as Sensei, are said to carry fragments of the Emperor's vast power. Notably, they possess agelessness and a unique nature that cloaks them from psychic detection, even from the Emperor himself. They are said to seek apotheosis, a final union with the Starchild. This mystical transformation is thought to potentially herald a new age for humanity, an era of rebirth and enlightenment guided by the new entity formed from the Emperor's essence, inspiring hope and fighting against the great foe. The Starchild theory is not without its detractors and is considered heretical by the mainstream doctrines of the imperial cult and the ecclesiarchy. To them, the idea of the Emperor's reincarnation undermines the sacrosanct nature of his eternal vigil on the Golden Throne. It implies a future where the Emperor could die, necessitating a rebirth which challenges the doctrine of his infinite, unchanging rule, creating a dramatic conflict within the Imperium. Indeed, the Emperor embodies the quintessence of being both a savior and a sacrifice. To the countless billions of the Imperium, he is a figure cloaked in the vestments of myth, a god-king who sits eternally on the golden throne. Yet, beneath this divinity lies the enduring enigma of a man who was once a dynamic leader. This visionary might have walked the earth among his subjects, his hands shaping the destiny of an empire. The nature of the Emperor's original pact, made in the depths of time, perhaps in the world of Molech, is a tale veiled by the mist of history. What bargains were struck in that forgotten epoch, and what powers were gained, or perhaps what parts of his humanity were forfeited, are questions that may never find answers. These elements of a saga paint the Emperor not merely as a figure of omnipotent might, but as a tragic hero whose immense power came with a price that would forever alter the course of human history. In his ascension to the throne, the Emperor transcended his mortal origins. He became the anchor of the Imperium's spiritual and psychic might, his ceaseless vigil a bulwark against the warp's corruption. This transformation was not just a change in function, but a metamorphosis of identity. From the unifier of humanity and the conqueror of stars, he became a silent deity, his visage adorning shrines and his name invoked in prayers across 1,000,000 worlds. His stillness on the golden throne, a state of being that is neither life nor death, has become a symbol of ultimate sacrifice, a god's eternal pain endured for mankind's fleeting peace. Yet what face will he wear if the Emperor awakens as some prophecy or fear? Will he rise as the warrior king of yore, a conqueror reborn to lead humanity through the fires of adversity? Or might he emerge as something wholly different, a being transformed by millennia of psychic toil and the collective belief of his empire? The nature of his existence, bound so tightly with the psyche and spirit of every human under his rule, suggests that his rebirth would be both monumental and fraught with consequence. His new visage would undoubtedly be shaped by the needs and dreams of humanity, reflecting their greatest hopes and perhaps their deepest fears. As an embodiment of hope, the Emperor remains humanity's guiding light in a galaxy steeped in shadow. Even in apparent death, his presence is a beacon against despair, his legend a shield warding off the darkness. In this way, he continues to serve, not just as a ruler or a deity, but as the idea of salvation itself, an idea potent enough to sustain a civilization teetering on the brink of chaos. In every guise, he is what he has always needed to be, the protector of mankind, whatever form that protection must take. To the peoples across countless worlds, he is a god-king, an undying beacon whose light pierces the shadow of heresy and alien menace. Yet those closest to him during the times before his entombment upon the golden throne might have glimpsed something else beneath the layers of awe and orchestrated divinity. A man, perhaps, burdened with a vision too vast for any one being to shoulder. Malcador, the Emperor's most trusted confidant, often spoke of the many faces his master wore. In private musings, now lost to all but the most privileged or heretical, he revealed a man as much a construct of necessity as he was of flesh and blood. To rally a planet, he became an unmatched warrior. To unite a galaxy, he ascended as a god. To guide his legions, he stood as a father. Each face was a mask, meticulously crafted not to deceive, but to inspire, lead, and push humanity toward a grand design. What then might lie behind these masks? Few can say, and fewer still live who saw the man before the myth. Those who walked beside him fought beneath his banners and watched as he carved order from the chaotic remnants of a human civilization lost to the age of strife. They knew a man driven by a singular consuming passion, a vision of humanity ascendant, free from the tyranny of alien oppressors and the capricious cruelty of the warp. This man, who would be emperor, knew the stakes of the cosmic game he played. He understood that belief could be as strong a force as fleets or armies. So, he let the Imperium shape him into what it needed, into the figurehead of a religion that would span the galaxy. But at what cost? The mask, once donned, does not quickly come off. The role, once assumed, begins to shape the actor. The culmination of his mortal campaign, the Horus Heresy, saw betrayal sharpen this transformation. As his favored son turned against him, as the dream of united humanity bled across the stars, the Emperor was forced to confront Horus and the realization of what he must become to preserve the future he envisioned. Ultimately, as he was confined to the Golden Throne, a life in eternal stasis, the last mask fused forever with the face beneath. Now, 10,000 years later, the Emperor is a symbol more potent than ever, a god in the eyes of his subjects, sustaining the Imperium with the sheer force of his will and the legend that surrounds him. Yet the question lingers in the quiet moments, whispered among the adepts and the scholars who preserve his legacy. Was this final face his choice, or his sacrifice? Perhaps Malcador was right, and no one ever truly knew the Emperor. Maybe he was, in the end, merely a man, albeit one of extraordinary power and vision, playing the roles destiny handed him, wearing the faces that best suited the needs of the galaxy. But it matters little to those who navigate by the light of the Astronomicon, who feel the safety of the Imperial Creed, and who fight back the dark where it encroaches. To them, he is the God Emperor, eternal in the Golden Throne, the savior of humanity. And yet, behind the veneration and the fervent prayers, behind the golden idols and the burning incense, the truth of the man remains an enigma.